Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Cleopatra. I am here with a really important topic for you today, which is miscarriage. So let's talk about it. Why are we talking about miscarriage right now? We're talking about miscarriage right now because we have just emerged from the time of year when miscarriage rates are at their peak. And that happens to be in the northern hemisphere during the summer months, and the rate of miscarriage rises over the summer months and then peaks in late August. Now, we just learned this last year, and this is really shocking information. But what's even more interesting to me is that the authors of this research study concluded that there are things about life or people's lifestyles in summer, and especially in the late summer, that seem to be contributing to the loss of pregnancy before 8 weeks. And when I hear this, what I realize is that it's obvious that the people who were doing this study are not immersed deeply in the fertility and pregnancy literature, because we know, those of us who are, know that the majority of pregnancy losses that occur, which is the definition of miscarriage, that occur before 12 weeks and especially before 8 weeks, are the results of chromosomal abnormalities and other types of defects. And these, in most cases, were put in motion well before the 8th week, the 6th week of pregnancy. They were put in motion at the time that egg and sperm met and cell division began. And that was put into motion in the months leading up to the release of the egg and the release of the sperm and them coming together to fertilize and to attempt to create new life. So the reason why I want to talk about this now is because I got some pushback actually when I shared about the peak miscarriage season happening, because one person at least said that she felt that it wasn't helpful to learn this information. I always think that education and information are really important. They have saved my life in so many ways, coming from the beginnings that I came from and not having access to a lot of information. It was books and studying that opened up worlds for me and helped me to understand who I want to be, how I want to live, what I want to treat my fertility like, how I want to go into pregnancy, how I want to be as a wife, as a mother, as an entrepreneur, as a thought leader. So I feel that strongly that education is one of the most powerful and important things that we have. I do understand that sometimes having information can be scary, especially if you're feeling vulnerable. But my goal with this education is that you feel less vulnerable, not more vulnerable. Okay, so my bra choice wasn't great here. Just disregard so I don't keep fixing my shirt, because what we're talking about is way more important than how my shirt looks. So what I want to do now that we've emerged from the peak season, and we know that the peak season will come around again next summer, and now is the time, and really in the next months, this is the time when we can put into motion the greatest protection against miscarriage. So that's why I want to focus on miscarriage at this time of year, because this is when we have all of the epigenetic leverage and all of the other pathways of leverage that are included in that statement of epigenetic leverage. So that's why we're going to be talking about miscarriage this week and probably for the coming weeks, because it's actually a really complex topic that, number one, we don't know a lot of things about, and we're still trying to understand a lot of things about, but that we actually, those of us who look at scientific data in a really careful, nuanced way, know a lot more about than the average conversation that's happening. And I want to make sure that you know about it. So I've prepared some really interesting and important information for you. I'm going to go over in just a second. Before I do, let me start with some really good news here. So I told you on Monday when I was live that we had a bunch of positive pregnancy tests and new super baby news come in, and it was already only Monday. And I promised to come back and share some, and we've gotten a few more since then. So let me just share a couple. I'm going to look on another device to read them to you. So I'll be kind of looking in different places, but hi, I'm so excited to tell you that I'm due November 4th with a baby girl. I'm so looking forward to it, and I would love your help writing a birth plan and learning more about the vitamin K shot and the ointment that goes on the eyes. Actually, I don't talk about this very much, but this is something I do know a lot about, and I can talk about another time. All right, so that's one of them. Okay, then we have, let me read this one to you, and then I'm going to just read tiny bits of them so we can dive back into the topic. But I'm going to read this one to you. And it's not a new pregnancy test, but it's wonderful. And then I have one more that's super, super sweet that actually came in on Saturday that I told you I wanted to share with you. Good morning, afternoon, team, and Dr. C. I just wanted to share the little wins because I know that's what keeps me going, and I'm sure for you guys too. I did a recent mid-cycle antral follicle scan to see how my ovaries were looking, as I had a prior hemorrhagic cyst and also have been experimenting with bioidentical progesterone cream, so was unsure if I was anywhere close to ovulating. Anyway, when I saw the results, I almost dropped, and then I cried with sheer joy and excitement. I had 9 follicles, 9 follicles. No, wait, that was 8. 9 follicles, the most I have ever seen since February of this year, which is when she started monitoring. Okay, I had previously said to Dr. C, I normally have 7 on a good day, but looking back over the few months prior, since I started monitoring in February before primestering, the highest count I had was 6, and in 1 month, I only had 1. This time I had 5 in the left ovary and 4 in the right. Normally, it's usually only 1 dominant ovary. So it looks like we've got both of those babies talking at once. 9 is a 50% improvement on my previous best count, and I'm approaching my 44th birthday. Anyway, just wanted you all to know how I was ecstatic and have been celebrating this win and moving forward. Thank you all for your support. The super babies are getting closer. Lots of love to you all. Okay, how exciting is that? Well, I love this because we always hear that it's not possible to improve AMH levels. It's not possible to improve follicle count. And we see every day at the Fertility and Pregnancy Institute that is just not true. And even look, as you're approaching your mid 40s, that's still possible for you. So excited for you, Mama S. And then, okay, one more that I'm going to read you. It's short, so it's so sweet. Okay. Let me see. It has a few parts. So let me find the first part. Okay. So I get this message on DMs. Will you please pray for me, Dr. C? I waited for 14 days and 1 day past my, I cried so much, by the way, when I got this message. I waited for 14 days and 1 day past my expected period to test, and I got a faint line. My husband and I are being optimistic. I want to share the joy and hope with you. And then I said to her, as I always tell everyone in the trimester, that if you are taking an HCG test and you get a faint line, that means that there was enough HCG present to trigger the line, which is a good indication that you're pregnant. And so I had responded to her message, and then she says, "Oh my gosh, just hearing all that nurturing love sent me to happy tears. Thank you so much this morning. It was a little darker. I am so very, very grateful for the process of growth and improvement you and your work, the Primester Protocol, has set forth in my life, with lots of beautiful emojis and also lots of pictures of the pregnancy test and the progression from Saturday to Sunday. So just, and yeah, it's so funny because I showed it to my husband, Jaïr, because I obsess like that over everyone's pictures and tests. And he said, "Oh, she's pregnant." I said, "Yes, she is." So we are so excited for you all, mamas, and this mama and her partner. I have watched them so diligently and lovingly primestering. I don't know what's beeping on my computer. Normally my notifications are off for this reason, but something's beeping. So excuse that. Okay. All right. So just want to just celebrate these mamas. I'll share some more celebrations with you over the course of the week as I'm coming back to talk with you about miscarriage, because hey, let's talk about what we can do, and let's also remember there's a lot of hope to be had and a lot of progress to be made, and fertility isn't fixed. And so even if everything has been all wrong up until now, it is still very possible to get pregnant, stay pregnant, and have your super baby, your healthiest, happiest, brightest, most well-adjusted baby who's resilient to the stresses of the modern world, has much lower risk of autism and chronic mental and physical health conditions than the average child. And I'm very happy to say that we don't collect formal data on this. We didn't set out to collect formal data on this, but we have no known cases of autism or autism spectrum disorders in our village among our super babies. And I am so proud of that and so thankful for that, considering that 1 out of every 44 children is autistic today, and 1 out of every 26 boys is autistic, and that number is growing annually. Okay, all right, let's talk about these numbers that I prepared for you. So first of all, the global fertility rate in 2023 is 2.418. So that means that the average woman has 2.4 children throughout the world. Now, obviously, that varies a lot by country. There are some countries where it's closer to 1, and there are some countries where it's closer to 4, but that's the average globally. So now follow me. We're going to take a few steps. I've done some analyses here that I'm walking you through. So there are approximately 7.8 billion people on the planet today, and approximately half of those are female. Actually, we know that more than half of the population is female, because it's hard to believe, but and say this, but the male sex is more vulnerable and less likely to survive at every stage of life. And scientists believe that includes in utero, in infancy, it's known, and throughout the life course. And of course, males die younger, have a lower life expectancy. So we know that it's not actually half of the world's population is female. It's a little bit more than half of the world's population is female. But let's say, for argument's sake, it's half of the population. So that would be 3.9 billion females globally. There are 140 million births annually. If you are yearning to have your baby and it's feeling so hopeless for you, I just want to remind you that there are 140 million people having babies every year. Now, again, that's not a perfect way to say it, because there are 140 million births. Some of those will be twins and triplets, for example. So it's maybe not 140 million women, but of 140 million different babies born, but it will be close to 140 million women. So that's a lot of women. No reason why you can't be one of them. And I have done estimates elsewhere for you all that approximately 3 million babies born annually are to women 40 plus. So if you're in the 40 plus category, that's also a really good chance that you can be among those births as well. Okay, so now let's keep going. So let's see. So if we calculate the number of women on on the globe who are giving birth in any year, that's almost 3.6% of women who are giving birth annually. So of all the women on the planet, across all age groups, 3.6 of them, 3.59% of them are giving birth annually. Now, if we narrow in to women of childbearing age, which is officially defined in the sciences as between the ages of 15 and 49 years old. Now, we could argue that 15 is way too young and that the average age of menopause in the United States of America at least is 51 years old. So of course, I would like to see that category pushed out at least another year, if not another 2 years. But let's use the official category, which is 15 to 49 years old. Then if we look at the percentage of women of childbearing age who are having babies each year, that's almost 9% of all women of childbearing age throughout the world who are having babies each year. That's pretty incredible, right? Okay, so now let me go a little bit further. So those are the percentage of women giving birth each year and the number of births that are happening worldwide each year. But what about the number of women who are pregnant each year? Because we know that number is very different than the number of women who are actually giving birth. And we know that because there are people who choose to terminate pregnancies, and there are what's called in science spontaneous abortion. I know it's a terrible term. That's the scientific term that's used for miscarriage. It feels all wrong to say that. We're going to use the word miscarriage, even though that term is not great either. Okay, so let's talk about the number of people who are pregnant, women who are pregnant each year, or number of persons who are pregnant each year. So there are between 40 and 50 million abortions every single year. There are 2.6 million stillbirths every single year, which is a very hard thing to talk about, and devastating outcome. And I actually did not realize that the number was quite that high. And then in a Lancet study published in 2021, it was found that there are 23 million miscarriages each year. And that has a specific definition of pregnancy loss occurring by week 12, or pardon me, before week 20. Before week 20. Pregnancy loss after week 20 is how a stillbirth is defined. Okay, so that's 23 million miscarriages in a year. And we know that there are approximately 1 out of 4 known pregnancies ends in miscarriage. So that 23 million annually, those are known miscarriages. We know that there are many, many more miscarriages that are missed because the woman doesn't know that she's pregnant yet. It's not like in this community where people they're intentionally trying to get pregnant and monitoring their cycles very closely, and will know, like the mama, we just talked about, waiting for 14 days post ovulation to be able to test, right? So in the general population, that's not what this looks like. And that's how there can be so many missed miscarriages. So if we look at those numbers, then what we know is that there's a much, much higher percentage of women who are pregnant every single year. In fact, it's 215,600,000 pregnancies every year if you take into account the terminations, the abortions, the losses after 20 weeks and later, and the losses that occur before 20 weeks that are known and documented. That this number does not include the losses that are not known because the person doesn't know that they're pregnant yet. And I want to tell you something. There's new research that suggests that the majority of human pregnancies end in miscarriage, and that it's not just a woman in her 40s who has a higher risk of miscarrying than of carrying a pregnancy to term, that this is true for women in their 20s as well. This is a pretty shocking finding. I'll be back to tell you about this tomorrow, and more importantly, what we can do about it. Because here's the thing, people will say that there's nothing that you can do to prevent miscarriage. That's the common and consensus party line when it comes to miscarriage. And that is true in most cases once a miscarriage has started. And it's also true in most cases once a pregnancy has already started. Not all cases, but there's a lot that we can do prior to conception to reduce risk of miscarriage if we focus on what are the most common root causes of miscarriage, and then we focus on preventing those. So that's what we're going to be talking about. I'll come back and see you tomorrow. In the meantime, if you are somebody who's experienced miscarriage or pregnancy loss of any kind, or you're still working through it, you're still healing from it, you're trying to figure out how to make sure it doesn't happen again, or you just want to do everything in your power to reduce the likelihood that you will ever experience miscarriage, put me in the comments. You can just put me in the comments, or if you need to for privacy, DM me, and we will send you a resource that we've created for you. Okay, a free resource. Sending you warmest wishes and sprinkling super baby dust in your direction. And I'll be back to see you again tomorrow so we can talk about what are those root causes of miscarriage and how can we address them prior to conception in the trimester to reduce the likelihood of experiencing pregnancy loss. All right, I will see you very soon.